beloved Harper. And she is here to tell us about Japan because she used to live there. Okay? So please give her your attention. Okay? Thank you.
It's not 12. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
It's not 12 yet. It's still the morning, so I'm going to say good morning to you guys in Japanese, okay? Ohayo gozaimasu. Good job. Good job. And then I'm going to say, hajimemashite, watashi wa Harper no o-kasan desu. Just like Mrs. Eichel said, I'm Harper's mom. That's what I said in Japanese, okay? So, I'm going to talk about a couple of things, and then at the end or during it, if you have a question, just raise your hand, and I'll try to answer it the best I can, okay? So, like Ms. Eichel said, I lived in Japan for a couple years. I was actually born there. My dad is American, and my mom is Japanese. And they met in Japan, and got married, and had myself, and then my younger brother. And then we moved back to the United States when I was 3 to New York. And then when my dad was working in New York City, he got a job back in Tokyo, and I got to live there for 8th and 9th grade. So imagine, I know this is a little younger, but my younger brother would have been going into 6th grade. So all you 5th graders back there, it would have been next year, imagine living in another country. So that was a big experience and a big change living. Imagine how many of you here have lived in Richmond your whole life? Your whole life, right? Yeah. So could you imagine going halfway across the world to another country? Would that be scary or exciting?
Exciting.
You guys have a good attitude. I was scared. I cried. I didn't want to leave New York, you know? But then I went there and I loved it. So I didn't go to, I went to a private American school. So it was all people who lived in the United States, in Europe. Anybody who wasn't from Japan got to go to this school, and they taught in English. But the students that live in Japan, who are locals there, guess how many days of the week they went to school?
A month.
I mean, they do go for the whole month, but out of a 7-day week, like you guys go to school Monday through Friday, right? Can you guess anybody?
I get, who was it? Megan or Anne or Louise?
You go ahead.
Me?
Mhm.
Okay. About, I think they'll go to the half of the school year.
But like, so there's 7 days in a week, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You guys go 5 days of the week.
5 times?
They go more than you guys. So there's only 2 more options.
They go 7 days a week?
Nope, there's 1 left. They go 6. It's changed. They changed it in the beginning of 2000, but they would go to school on Saturdays too. And like you guys as well, they all wore uniforms as well. So every day they would be in their uniforms, and they would go 6 times a week. Now during Saturday, they wouldn't go a full day like you guys went. They would go a half day, and they all take English the way you guys take Spanish right now, but they take it like for a couple hours every day. So when they see American people there, they love to practice their American and speak in English to you, and they'll come up to you, want to take pictures and everything. So that's pretty cool, huh? Do you have a question? How do they make square water? I didn't know that they did. You taught me something. I'm not sure. Say one more time. Singing toilets? I don't know about that, but I will tell you about toilets because that's a good story. Now, let me say too, when I lived there, because I'm much older than you guys, when I lived there, it was in the late 1980s. That was a long time ago. And the toilets, you know what they did? It was very weird to me as a 13-year-old at the time, but now I can appreciate it more as an adult. The toilet looked like you know in the boys' room they have a urinal on the wall? It looks like a urinal that's on the ground. So what happens is there's no seat, and you just have to kind of Stand over.
Oh my goodness.
And go. But do you know why they do that? Does anybody have an idea why? That's exactly right. It's for sanitary reasons. That way you're not getting anything dirty. So it's a little odd if you're not used to it, but now as a grown-up, I appreciate it because it's not dirty or messy or anything like that. But it is a little bit odd to see that. And my mom, she grew up, I'll show you, I'm gonna throw a picture. You guys all seen a map of what Japan looks like?
Dragon.
No? No? All right, I'm gonna make a picture. I'm not the best artist, but you guys will get an idea. It kind of looks like a bean, right? Can you guys see okay? No? Is it because of the color? Okay, I'll make it in black. Let's see if that makes it a little better. So this is where Tokyo is, okay? And my mom grew up here in a town called Aomori. And so, do you know how we would get there? Do you know what kind of train? All the way in the back. Yeah, it's called a bullet train. So we would go in this bullet train. Do you know why it's called a bullet? That's right. Did you hear what he said?
Yeah.
One of the fastest trains. So we would take a bullet train all the way there. If we drove, it would probably take about 10 hours from Tokyo to Aomori. But if we took the bullet train, guess how long it would take? Any other guesses? 4 hours. So more than half the time. Isn't that cool? So anyways, my mom grew up there on a farm. And do you think that she had the toilet that was on the floor? No, she didn't. Do you know what she had? Who? No, not she had who? Anybody in the room watch Little House on the Prairie? Where do they go to the bathroom? In an outhouse. That's what my mom had. And guess what? When I went to go visit in 1986, guess what they still had there? Yes, an outhouse. And do you think that I went to the bathroom in there?
No.
I held it for 24 hours till we went to the next town because I did not want to go as a 13-year-old, which I know that sounds crazy, but it was very country and I was a city girl. I was not used to that. So it's very different. So different parts, just like the United States, just like Virginia, Tokyo is a huge, huge city, but different parts are country as well. Like where my mother grew up, they had a farm and animals, and they had rice fields. And I'll tell you something my mom taught me, which I want you guys to remember, and Harper probably knows what I'm going to say, is in Japan, especially in the farming areas, you'll see very old people like your grandparents, and they walk like this. Do you know why they walk like this? And they can never get up, like they're permanently, like their back is like that. Why do you think? A little bit. Go ahead. No, it's not that. Let's see. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Because they've been inventing picking the rice. Before they had the big technology and machines that came and cultivated all the rice, cultivate, spell the word, the phrase, they would go like this. So they would permanently have back damage and be like this. So what my mom used to tell me every time she would make my brother and I rice and we didn't finish it all, she would say, Nancy, you need to eat every single rice that there is. Because anytime you see those old people, they bent over to pick that rice. And to this day, do you think that I ever let a piece of rice go? No. I eat every single one. Do you think that Harper eats all her rice? Yes, she does. So think about that. That was hard what we had to do. So another thing that's really cool too, that you might not think, is like in the United States, we don't really get too many international movies, right? Like there are movies. In Japan, whatever movie is popular right now in the US, it's in the Tokyo as well. You can see it, but it all has what do you think, so we can understand. If they speak in Japanese, so from our ear, audio, we couldn't understand what they were saying unless you speak Japanese. What do you think, so we know?
My grandma, all she watches Japanese shows.
She has it.
That's it. Literally.
Go ahead.
They have the real words.
That's right, they have, it's called subtitles, so it's all in English written on the bottom. So has anybody ever watched a movie where you have to read it on the bottom and not listen? Yeah. It's a little hard, right? Mm-hmm. But I got to see all of the movies that were popular then, that I won't even tell you because you probably don't even know. Yeah. But I still got to see them over there. And same thing with the music, it's all popular. They don't put subtitles on that, obviously. Another thing that's popular in Japan is fast food, just like it is over here. So what do you think their most favorite restaurant to eat? That I'm sure a lot of you eat too. Somebody put your hands out if you haven't answered yet, so we can get somebody down. Let's see, go ahead. Well, they do use chopsticks, but it's a place where like you guys might go through a drive-through and get some food here. Go ahead. They don't, I don't know if they have Chick-fil-A. They did it when I was there. Who has it? In the back right there. Say yes? Oh, I don't know what that is. All right, I'm going to give you, sushi. They do have sushi, but it's an American thing, right? If I try this, you guys can all say it at the same time. So they love McDonald's, but McDonald's is very different over there. So first of all, they don't call it McDonald's, they call it Makudonado. Makudonado. And some of the things that they have there that we don't have, like they have chicken teriyaki burgers, they have fried shrimp sandwiches, the milkshakes. So like what do we have here with chocolate, vanilla, strawberry? They have honeydew melon, peach, lots of flavors, tons of different things. So isn't that cool? So you want to hear something funny? It's so much, I think it's so much better, McDonald's in Japan, that like I would let my kids eat there at McDonald's versus here. Yeah, it's so different. They're very, very healthy. Like another thing is rice. Like so rice is a big part of their staple for their food, right? So when do you think that they eat rice? Like which meal? Breakfast, lunch, or dinner? You can say it out loud. Who said all? They eat it for all. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Isn't that neat? Yeah. So another thing that is really neat that Japan has as well is in their department stores. So a department store would be, let me think, like here. What do we have here? Like a Nordstrom's or a Dillard's, like a big store like that. All the shopping is done upstairs, and then in the basement area, you go downstairs, it's like a grocery store. And they have fancy foods, and they all have samples. So if you are so hungry right now, you could go through the entire place and try samples of different foods. Isn't that fun? Yes, they're free. And they're good, too. Another thing is, so imagine, so the oldest is 5th grade. What is that, like 10, 11 years old, right? So I was 13, and guess what? Do you guys think that I could buy a lot of clothes there? Why not?
Yes. Yes. No.
Why?
Yes. Yes.
No, I couldn't. You know, I had to wait until we would go visit the United States on vacation because everybody's so little. Like I was too big, like to fit in a lot of their clothes. They're really tiny. Like my mom, I'm 5'6". My mom was probably like just hitting 5 feet. So they're so tiny. Like I couldn't buy shoes there. My foot was too big. You know, and my foot at that age was probably like a size 6. So who wears, girls, who wears bigger than a size 6 right now? So you guys would be able to buy shoes there. You were size 11? Oh, women's, right, exactly. So it's really hard there because everybody's really tiny. So guess what else I just read today that I wanted to share with you guys? So they did a survey of all of the world, and guess who is number 5 as the safest city in the world? Tokyo, that's right. It was number 1 last year, but it's number 5. Do you think that the other 4, any of them are in the United States?
Yeah!
So let me talk to you about safety, you guys. Listen, let me ask you a question. So let's do this from the age of, let's say that anybody who's, well, it'll probably be more like the older 4th and 5th grade. But my brother, remember, so he was 11 when we moved there, and I was 13. My parents would let us walk probably 5 to 6 blocks at like 10 o'clock at night by ourselves to go get something at the store. Would your parents let you do that right now? Yeah. I wouldn't let Harper do that. Do you know why? Because it's so safe there. Like another thing that is really crazy, I think, is, so for example, like if your parents wanted to buy like a bottle of wine or something like that, right? You have to go to the alcohol store, right? You have to be over 21. You know how if you go somewhere in the U.S. and they have like machines to buy Coca-Cola, for example? Yeah. They have machines that you can buy alcohol on the street. Do you think that people who would in the U.S. would say, oh, I'm not 21, I can't do that, or would they try to get it? Yeah, that doesn't happen in Japan because they follow the law very strictly. So it's very different there like that because the kids are so respectful and they know not to do things that are bad or bold. You know what I mean? Yeah. What do you guys think about that?
He can kill you and then you're like, no.
Okay, well, I don't know about that. So listen to this. Let's talk about how big the population. You know what population means, right? Yeah. Like how many people live there? Yeah. So this is the island of Japan. And do you know what state, like so in the United States, listen to the question you guys. In the United States, there's a state that's almost the same size as Japan. Can anybody guess? It doesn't mean that it has to look like it, but can anybody guess what state that is? How about over there? It is California, good guess. So let's think about this, because I think this will really help you understand. So I'm going to make a pretend small United States. Don't anybody laugh. It totally doesn't look like it. It looks like a cow is not. But let's look. Look, this is where California is, right? This is California, right? So this is the whole island of Japan. They have 126 million people there, right? So 1, 2, 6. Guess how many we have in the entire U.S.? 350 plus. So they almost have half the amount that we do in this small thing, not all of this thing. So do you think that means it's crowded? Super crowded, right? So another thing that I think you guys might like to know is when my brother and I went to school, again, remember, 11 years old and 13, we would have to walk a mile by ourselves to the train station, okay? We would have to get on one train and then get to the busiest one. I heard someone talking about the cat and the loyalty earlier. We would go to a train station called Shibuya, which has that statue of the dog there. And we would have to change trains, get on another train and then walk another mile to our school in the morning. And it was so crowded. Have you guys seen pictures or heard about the subway system there? That they would open it up and there's men that work there and they push you in like this to make sure that everybody gets into the subway. Could you imagine right now if you were 10 or 11 getting on a subway, 2 subways by yourself?
Yes.
That would be crazy, right?
Yes.
It would be really like, wow. And it would be the difference, just so you know, like how far away. It would be like if you guys took a train from here, where this is going to like Short Pump. And that's how far the distance was from where we lived to our school. but it was safe to do that. Guess what another thing is about Japan? Even when I was a little girl there and now, do you think it costs a lot of money or not a lot of money to live there?
Not a lot of money.
It costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money. Guess how much it costs for us to have lunch every day at our school? Now, I'm gonna tell you how much it cost back then, but I'll tell you like what the equivalent is now because that was 30 years ago. How much do you think? What would be expensive, do you think?
$300. $1,000.
No, now it cost us like $10. So right now it probably would be like around 20 or something. That's a lot of money, right? It's very expensive over there. Do you guys know why it's so expensive? Who said that? Yes. Did you hear what she said, everybody? Because it's so crowded. Because think about it. If half the amount of people that live in the United States are all in the one state of California, you don't have a lot of space. So you know what? My mom, when she grew up, even though she grew up on the farm, she was one of 5 brothers and sisters. And guess how many bedrooms they had?
5.
Who said 1? They had 1. They slept on the floor, the rice floors that's called tatami mats, and they slept on futons, which is like a roll-out mattress. All 5 kids and their parents all in the same room. Could you imagine? Does anybody here have, like, who has the most siblings? Like, does anybody come from 5? You do? Could you imagine if you slept with your parents and all your siblings in one room? How do you think that would go? That would be so fun, right? So do you guys have any questions? We're going to start in the front, that we will work our way back. What's your question? It was the best. So remember in the beginning I said I cried because I didn't want to leave New York? I was supposed to graduate high school there. We were supposed to stay for 5 years, but my father's job ended early and we had to come back when I was going into 10th grade, and I cried. I didn't want to leave Tokyo. It's the best. Other than New York, because that's my home where I grew up, it's the best city after New York in the world, in my opinion. I love it there. People are super nice, so safe, so clean. Like, you know, if you drive around here on the streets and you see people throwing trash and it's all over, it makes me so sad. It's not like that there. It's such a different mindset. Yeah, they do. What's your question? That's a great question. How many dollars were the houses? Okay, I can tell you how much we rented a house. My dad's company rented a house. I can tell you how much it is, but I think it'll mean more probably to the teachers. So in 1986, for this big, it was probably like a 2,000 square foot, which that's huge in Tokyo. It was $5,000 a month rent in 1986. And I'll tell you this, the private school that we went to in 1986, the company had to pay, it was like college tuition. It was $20,000 each for us in 1986 to go there. Yeah, so I can't imagine how much it is now, but that's a great question.
I know how to make square watermelon.
Oh, you do? Okay, maybe you can share that later, okay? In New York, we can have another conversation about New York another day. We can do New York Day. I'll tell you all about New York, okay? Yes? Let me take one from the back. Brianna. Do some stores have what? Did you hear what she said?
Do all stores have what? Workers. Workers.
What do you mean, like, do they have workers? Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. They do. Oh, yeah. Now, again, I haven't been there since the late 80s, so it might be a little bit different, but when I was there, yes, everybody had human workers. Yeah. Any other last questions? Ms. Rose, next to you.
There
people do when there's a lot of people in the subway.
When there's a lot of people in the subway.
Yeah, you just wait, you know, because you have no choice. That's the only way somebody you can get home, so you just have to wait. They have a lot of trains coming in, and that's why the men push them into the subways. Yeah. So I'm gonna show you a few things really quickly, because I know you guys have to go, but I just brought some fun things in. Like these are everything, all the cartoon characters they have are so cute. Like this guy, this is Kage. And like everybody knows Hello Kitty, right? Yeah. So cute. See, you hear her say, oh, you know what they say, the little Japanese children in Japan, like when you say something cute, oh, they say, oh, kawaii. Kawaii, that means cute. And then I just brought these other little things to show you guys. Like they drink a lot of tea, so we have tea sets and that. And then just like I told you too, every day, fill your bowl with rice, and then what do you think goes in here?
Sauce. Rice? Soup.
What kind of soup?
Rice soup.
Miso. Who's had miso soup? And then the last thing I'm going to show you guys, has anybody ever seen one of these?
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? It's called a daruma.
What?
Daruma. So in Japan, the people that are Buddhists have these, and you can buy them anywhere, like at a 7-Eleven, at a little shop. And what they do is see, look, do you see their eyes? What you don't see the eyes in there, right? So what you do is if you have a wish and you want good luck for something, you say like, oh wow, I hope that I have a really good week in school next week. You hit a little Sharpie and draw the color in the left eye, and then you leave this one blank. When do you think you color this one in? When the wish comes true. Isn't that fun? Yeah. So I'm going to write something for you guys. You know what that says? That's a good guess. It says, arigato. Arigato. Thank you. If you say it formally, you say, domo arigato gozaimasu. Arigato. Thank you guys for letting me come and talk to you today.